Hello and welcome to my post-Brexit analysis. Since the UK Brexit referendum in summer 2016, I published several videos and texts with my forecasts for Brexit and how it will develop. My last video, which I published here in YouTube, and the link to that video I will put you below in the information box. This last video I published on August 23, 2019, 4 months before the actual Brexit. I analyzed how I see the development for the last few weeks, how I see the procedure and which kind of Brexit I see happening. Basically, everything I forecasted came the way I predicted it. And if you're interested to see more about the outcome of what I said, and also in this video I just talked about, in which I refer to other publications I did between 2016 and 2019. You can also go on my website, martinzoller.com. You go to predictions and you will find my post from February 6th of this year, in which you can see the latest video from before Brexit itself, from August 23, plus the analysis of how Brexit happened in relationship to what I foresaw. Because of the accurate analysis I did since Brexit happened, I was asked by many people to please do a new publication. This time about post-Brexit for the UK and for Europe. For this video, I prepared many very new and for the first time in this video published forecasts. And I am going to do this in 3 different steps. First step, I will publish about the Brexit development in general. What does it mean, not only for the UK and Europe, but also for the world. Second step will be post-Brexit on the island for the United Kingdom, and last but not least, post-Brexit for Europe. But let's start with the development in general. I see and this is a very basic forecast, I see the negotiations will continue in a more or less relaxed way and also better organized than December 31st, 2020. I also can see that the Brits are having more options to negotiate than the Europeans. As I said over and over in my different publications and from the beginning, Brexit for the UK was a very wise and intelligent step to go. Even if in the moment, and maybe for the next few years as well, it still will be not only easy in a long term, and if we talk about the economical development of a whole country and its geopolitical importance, we talk in many years, not only 2-3 years, but 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 years. And for that, and analyzing it from that point of view, it definitely was a very wise thing to do for the Brits. The position of Brussels will be weakened, meanwhile the one of London will be much better, in a much more solid stand than Brussels. The opponents, the political and economical opponents, are benefiting from Brexit, meaning by having an independent London, England, or United Kingdom, the European Communion gets weakened, and for its economical and political enemies, this will be very good, because by that they're able to take advantage of the weakness of the Europeans. In the long term, London will succeed, and for sure as well, and mainly behind closed doors, and this especially in the coming couple of years. Whatever happens in the front line doesn't really matter. Of course, it matters for the common people, but not so much for the political elite. And for them, behind closed doors, Brexit will be very powerful. London will succeed to gain important steps. It's even, and that's very interesting, it's even drawing France on its side to indirectly which will indirectly weaken the Europeans as a whole. Because what I saw is that in a long term, the alliance between France and the UK will become stronger. Meanwhile, the connection between France and Germany will become weaker. So the alliance is definitely shifting in that direction. As I already published in videos before, in a long term I see the Germans as one of the big losers of Brexit. From a geopolitical point of view, Brexit is tearing Europe apart. Not only in a way it's building up the front between the UK and Europe, or the European Union, but also because I can see that there will be a split of interest, and politically, and this I already published several times, between the west of Europe and the east of Europe. The eastern states are such as Hungary, Poland, and which will actually even build an indirect alliance with the United Kingdom, which France later will be joining as well. Europeans have to be very careful, and especially Brussels has to be very careful not to lose itself in this small and short thinking mentality. Now, focusing on the post-Brexit on the island, I want to concentrate on two fields, economically and politically. That politically, Brexit was a wise move for the UK, I already mentioned several times. Even if it's painful and difficult in a short term. If I would be a long-term investor and would like to put more money in or around Europe, I would focus very strong on the United Kingdom. Especially if I want to invest in a profit for my future generations. Big cities will be very well positioned, especially in the financial section. And London will become very, very, very important in the long term. It will even regain its certain luster that it had lost for several decades, meaning the United Kingdom or England was a global power player. Since World War II, it lost a lot of influence, but in a long term, in several decades, it will be able to gain back some of its influence, political influence. It will be able to gain power again. What I also saw in the long term is that the royalists will be able to assert themselves more strongly. The royal house will get back more of its powers and influence. Scotland will achieve independence as well in the long term. Ireland, unfortunately, will have to face another wave of violence. Europe-friendly regions and politicians on the island will have a very, very difficult time ahead. And from a political point of view and independent from Europe, I see that England will be one of the first countries to almost officially say goodbye to the democratic political system. Economically, I see London growing strongly in the metal industry, real estate market, and finances. England will become, in a way, it is already in that direction, but what I also see taking back more of its original strength, it will become again, and even stronger, one of the leading producers and sellers in the arms industry. The south of the island will be badly affected economically. In contrast, I see the center and west of the country also growing strongly in the long term. England will regain a strong foothold in Africa and economical exchange with the Far East. The US will play in the long term as well less and less an important influence. In the long term, the Crown will distance itself from the Anglo-Saxon axis, and it will focus more towards the Far East. And this is a very interesting point, indirectly related to that, because I also see that in the long term, the United Kingdom will be one of the nations benefiting from an upcoming, even much more weakening of the America, of the United States as a world power. Now, focusing on post-Brexit in Europe. With Brexit, Europeans' opponents achieved a unique PR coup. Why? Because it showed how weak Europe in reality is. For Europe, it was a big humiliation, or Europe was humiliated by Brexit. What's good on that side for Europe is many people before Brexit and even between 2000, before the referendum or after the referendum, when it really happened, and between the referendum and Brexit in last year, the final steps of Brexit, many people were panicking or causing panic or fears by pointing out the disastrous consequences of Brexit. I told in my video I published in August 2019 that I don't see that happening. I said I don't see that Brexit will lead to an economical disaster, at least not Brexit, because what I saw, and this I already talked about in 2018 already, that I see between 2018 and the coming 4 years, I see a big economic crisis, but definitely not related to Brexit. As it turned out now, this crisis I was talking about in 2018 seems to be because due to Corona. Okay, let's see. Brexit is helping Brussels to reposition itself. At the same time, the fronts in Brussels are intensified by Brexit. Brussels has lost some leverage against dissenters, meaning it will be difficult to put the pressure under uncomfortable states within the European community. It has been a reality before. In the medium terms time window, I see Brexit as positive for parts of European agriculture, meaning Brexit will indirectly help the European agriculture to grow. In general, I see agriculture suffering less than, for example, heavy metal industry. In the long term, the domestic markets within Europe for the continental industry will gain in importance, while global trade will come under several or under pressure from many directions. Economically, I see property like land and water and wood processing becoming very important in industrial sectors. I don't see the euro as a currency disappearing. There will be a restructuring in the financial system within Europe. This yes, but because of that, I don't see that the euro will disappear. A total restructuring of the financial system will give Europe a whole new direction in financial policy. Financial control will be centralized. Individual states will lose control of their finances. It's almost as if Europe will have its economical Vatican, who is controlling everything. Paris will have more and more influence in Brussels, while Berlin will use of its influence. In the next few years, I can see that another country will leave the European Union. I strongly assume that this will be a Mediterranean country. Again, in a long term, I see that there will be two strong economical or political blocs in Europe. One, which we already know and is based in Brussels, and the other one is likely to find its place either in Warsaw, Budapest or Prague. Um, Not that this second block will be as important as the European community as we know it, and the second city in the east as important as Brussels, but yes, there will be a division. An armed conflict, war in the eastern Mediterranean will be felt across the whole continent. And I'm not talking about one of the already known conflicts such as Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Israel, Syria, the conflictive Middle Eastern area. No. I'm more likely to talk about Cyprus, Greece, Turkey, North Africa. There I see an armed conflict happening. I also see another strong immigration wave, illegal immigration wave, similar to the one we saw of 2015. And finally, the dream of a united, harmonious, and exemplary Europe will burst. Europe will not be dissimilar to a structure as we know it. Europe will, with the changes which it's going through, it will build up a similar political structure as we know it in China or the USA. One strong elite controlling a multi-ethnical and multi-religious culture. A power elite controlling an entire continent from its stronghold. This, my dear friends, is my forecast for Europe, the United Kingdom, and what we have to expect as the post-Brexit time for all of us, which for sure is changing and influencing all our lives. It's nothing people really have to be worried about too much. Changes are always happening, but it's good to know in which direction the wind is blowing to, so you're able to prepare yourself. I wish all of you a good time, take care, and stay healthy. Thank you. Bye-bye.